It's with great pleasure that I welcome back Dr. Sean Patel, who's the CEO and founder of Prep Expert, the title sponsor of the College Admissions Process podcast. Sean, you have a special message for the listeners?
Hey, John, I just wanted to mention for all the parents and students who are listening to this great podcast, we have a really special offer only for listeners of the College Admissions Process podcast for Prep Expert. So, if your student is going to be taking an online SAT, ACT, PSAT course anytime soon, or is looking for one-on-one tutoring with top 1% tutors, head over to prepexpert.com. We offer live online courses for every college admissions exam. On top of that, we have the best score guarantees, best curriculum, and best instructors in the test prep industry. And just for listeners of the College Admissions Process podcast, you can get 20% off any online SAT or PSAT or ACT course, as well as one-on-one tutoring. So you can get 20% off. Just make sure you use the promo code College Talk. That's one word, College Talk, and you'll get 20% off just for listeners of the College Admissions Process podcast. And I hope you guys can use that to your advantage, save a bunch of money at prepexpert.com.
Thank you so much, Sean. And to everyone out there, once again, that promo code is College Talk. That's one word, College Talk. Thank you all, and best wishes. Welcome to The Cap, where we are here to speak with college reps and other professionals in the field of college admissions to help answer all your questions and guide you through every step of the process. So if you're serious about college admissions, you've come to the right place. Are you ready? Let's talk about it. And now, here's your host, Dr. John Durante. Welcome to The Cap, the College Admissions Process podcast. I am your host, John Durante, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today Jennifer Gayles, who's the Director of Admission and Inclusive Outreach at Sarah Lawrence College in beautiful Bronxville, New York. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I am doing fine. Thank you, John, so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. And Jennifer, can you give us an overview of Sarah Lawrence College and what makes it stand out among liberal arts colleges, particularly in its focus on individualized learning, creativity, and close student-faculty collaboration?
Sure. So, Sarah Lawrence is a small liberal arts college. We offer a curriculum that allows students to really explore their interests in a very unique way. They have the opportunity to work very closely with faculty on a mentorship level, certainly taking classes with them, but also having that one on one interaction with not only their faculty mentor, but also faculty that they're taking classes with throughout their time at the college really helps them to develop strong relationships with their mentors who help guide their education throughout their time at the college. With that exploration comes opportunity for research and really delving deeply into the various interests that students have and studying in a very interdisciplinary way. Students aren't required to declare a major or a minor, but really think about the things that they're interested in and how they all work together and are connected. So that faculty piece, that faculty mentorship plays a big role in that, in ensuring that students have this guided direction available to them through the faculty that they're working with, and really being able to engage in the curriculum in a very different way.
Well, we appreciate what you're saying. It's a small liberal arts college where students really get to explore their interests, strong student to faculty relationships, which opens up opportunities for research and so much more. And you talked about one of your missions, which are those interdisciplinary studies. Now, Sarah Lawrence is also known for its seminar style classes, one-on-one conferences with professors, and self-directed learning. So, Jennifer, how does this approach prepare students for success both in college and beyond?
Sure. So, because students are really forging their own path at Sarah Lawrence, so every student is studying something in a different way. We may have two students studying psychology, but their paths might be very different. And because of that uniqueness, that individual nature of the education, students are able to really hone in on their skills that are certainly useful during their time in college, but also transferable after they leave Sarah Lawrence. So, being very strong writers, because our curriculum is very writing based. So having the opportunity to do academic writing throughout their time at the college and really hone those skills. Students who are solving problems and answering questions through their individualized papers or projects, which we call conference work. It's an opportunity for students to explore a particular topic that they have interest in, but with the guided direction of a faculty mentor and member in a particular class who helps them explore that topic and answer the question that maybe they've posed, or doing a specific science experiment or something within the arts, because these conference projects can really, you'll see them across the curriculum regardless of what a student might be studying. Conference projects really allow students to take those questions that they're going to answer, take the problem that they're going to solve, the creative approach that they'd like to take, and expand it, and really connect it with their various different interests that they're studying.
Well, I appreciate you explaining how Sarah Lawrence allows students to explore their interest in these, what sounds to me like independent projects, of course, working with their professor. And of course, the people that are listening, the students, the families, and even college counselors, their interests are what happens when the application is submitted. So, Jennifer, can you walk us through the journey of an application at Sarah Lawrence from submission to final decision? For example, how many people typically read each file, and what kinds of discussions take place during committee deliberations?
Sure, great question. So once we receive an application file, each application is read by the area counselor. So I myself recruit in Westchester County, as well as New York City, specifically Manhattan and Brooklyn. So when those applications come in, I am the first reader on those applications. So our team is split into various different areas, and they'll be the first reader on those applications. Once we do a first read, we go through a second read with someone else in the office at what we call an outside reader. So they're not the area counselor, but someone else within our office will do a second read of the application. We do have a form that we complete that really highlights the things in the application that speak to us about what does the application tell us about the student and their match for the college. And then we go through a committee review once the application has gone through those first two reads. And then our committee is discussing typically those applications that maybe we need additional information or further discussion to make a final decision on the application. We may ask students to submit, an additional piece of writing or updated grades or anything like that to really help fill out the application and again provide us a really great foundation in order to make a decision on the application. But we're talking about their writing, we're talking about their extracurricular involvements, we're talking about how their teachers and their counselor talk about them in their letters of recommendation. How does the student talk about themselves in their essays? So all of that becomes a part of the discussion and our review process as a whole. We certainly take a holistic view of the application and in our process. So all of those pieces are going to come together. We offer interviews. So if a student does an interview, the interviewer does a brief write up, and we'll use that information as a part of the application. It's not an evaluative interview, but really giving us more information about the student and their interest in the college. So all of those things play a major role in how we review applications.
And I would imagine that the interview is optional.
Correct. Interviews are optional. They start in the summer and continue through the fall. And they're all done online and with a current student. So rather than an admissions counselor, it's one of our senior interviewers that they'll meet with. So it's really about an exchange of information and getting to know us from the student perspective, and then we get to know the students outside of what's already on their application.
Fantastic. So there's a first reader, which is usually the regional rep, and then a second reader, someone outside of that area. And then you come to committee and you look at all of the things that teachers say, that the students say, that the transcript says, and everything else as part of that overall application. And hopefully all the pieces are in line with each other. So let's break it down even further, Jennifer. How can applicants show in their essays, for example, an overall application that they understand and connect with Sarah Lawrence's mission and values?
Sure, great question. So, because we are a campus that does have a curriculum that is very heavily a writing based curriculum, we do look really closely at the writing. So, the personal statement really helps us, that they submit with the Common App, really helps us to get a better understanding of who they are as an individual, and really get a sense of how they may fit into our community and what they'll bring to our community as a community member. And then we have a supplemental essay. There's actually 4 questions currently that students choose one of those 4 questions to answer. Those are optional, or I should say that essay is optional, but we strongly encourage to do it. Students to submit those because it really does help us get a better sense of, do they understand the kind of education that we offer at Sarah Lawrence, and are they looking for this kind of education? So one of the questions that we ask is, if you were to describe your what we call your hyphenate, what would that be? So a lot of Sarah Lawrence students are studying more than one thing. And so it could be anywhere from poetry to pre-med to environmental studies. And so what would an education at Sarah Lawrence look like for that student? How would they like to pursue that education? Whether it's through the classes that they're taking, those individualized papers or projects that they're working on, through extracurricular involvements, whatever it is, we want to get a sense of how they've explored those interests in high school and how they'd like to continue to do that in college. So that is really specific to who we are as an institution. And so it helps us to get an understanding of the students, really their understanding of us. One of the other questions that we ask does relate specifically to the independent projects, the conference work that I mentioned. And it asks students, if you have the opportunity to research a particular topic or area, what would you do? And kind of how would you pursue that? What questions or topics would you delve deeper into? And so, again, another way for us to get a sense of, are they prepared for the kind of way that we want them to think and pursue their education? And students really submit some amazing answers for both of those questions. But I'm always impressed with how well they've thought about, the kinds of things that they're interested in, how they want to pursue those in college and especially at Sarah Lawrence.
Well, I love that answer because you talked about so many things. First off, your mission, if you will, that you are in fact a writing based curriculum. And so, students, as Jennifer said, if you understand, if you could demonstrate your understanding of Sarah Lawrence, and that's the type of curriculum that they want to bring forward to all of their students, and you talk about how you understand it, how it resonates with you, perhaps what you've done in high school that is in line with it. And if you could demonstrate all of that and more in the overall application, you're likely going to put yourself in a better light in terms of the overall review. Now, Jennifer mentioned that they have an optional supplemental with 4 prompts, and you have to choose one. But I'm going to repeat what she said. She strongly recommends that you go ahead and submit that supplemental, especially in a school whose mission is to be a writing based curriculum type school. Anything else you want to add with what I'm repeating here, Jennifer?
I think that is perfect. And then, certainly there's other ways that students can, supplement their essay or their application, certainly with doing an interview. But we're also a campus that has a rich history of creativity. And not just in the areas of the creative arts, so music, theater, dance, filmmaking, creative writing, but also students are able to pull those interests into other areas that they're thinking about studying. So students can submit a creative arts portfolio if they like. Again, not a requirement, but it is something that a lot of students decide that they want to submit that, even if they're coming to Sarah Lawrence to study philosophy. But this is something that, is really important and really interesting to them. So our process is not just about looking at the transcript, looking at testing, though we are test optional, but looking at that, we really want to get a picture of the whole student and what are the kinds of things that excite you. We want students to share that with us.
Well, it goes back to show the fact that you are, in fact, interdisciplinary in nature, another piece of your mission and philosophy. So, students, if you're interested in Sarah Lawrence, I hope you're listening because Jennifer is really giving insight in terms of what they value. Now, we touched upon a lot of things, and you just mentioned the test optional nature of your application review. So, what guidance do you offer students deciding whether or not to submit their test scores?
So I tell students we truly are test optional, and we've been test optional well before the pandemic. I've been at the college since 2008, and we were test optional well before that. And so it's very similar to our other optional pieces. It's another way for students to show us who they are. And I really tell students if you're comfortable with your scores and you feel like they reflect your ability, then feel free to submit them. If you're not comfortable with them, or for some of our students, they don't feel like they want their scores, even if they're a strong test taker and they've done well, some don't even want to submit it as a part of their application because it's not what they want to lead with in the application process. So we really leave it up to the students to decide how they would like to show up in the application process. And so this is just one of those pieces. But again, if students feel strongly and feel that it's a another indicator of the strength of their application and really of their overall profile, then certainly feel free to submit those scores, and we will use it as a part of the process.
Understood. And how does your office evaluate academic rigor, especially considering the variety of high school programs? Of course, with talking about honors, AP, schools that have IB. How do you evaluate all these types of schools and what they offer?
That's a great question because there are so many different types of schools, and we're a campus that receives applications from all different types of schools. When you think about public schools, private schools, we also get a number of homeschool applicants to the campus. So we are looking at a variety of different types of academic backgrounds. But certainly we're taking into consideration academic rigor. What do students have available to them, and how have they utilized the curriculum available to them while they're in high school? We're not counting up the number of AP courses or anything like that. Certainly understanding the rigor of various different types of curriculum. So AP, IB, honors, all of that. And because we recruit and read regionally, we do get to know our campuses or the high schools very well. So we understand the curriculum and really pay close attention to the school report when we're reading the application. So if there are changes from year to year, we can understand that. But we really, again, want to see that students have utilized the curriculum available to them to challenge themselves and throughout their time, in high school. So it's important for us to see that and that they're prepared for the rigor of the education at Sarah Lawrence.
Well, we appreciate that. And you touched upon students who are homeschooled, and I actually have been getting a few emails from more and more homeschool students. Anything else in terms of advice for them since they're not coming from a traditional, I'll use the term traditional high school? Any specific advice for them in terms of what to consider when applying to Sarah Lawrence?
Sure. I definitely say, as much as you can provide as well-rounded of a academic background as you can. Certainly take, engaging in a very well-rounded academic experience, but also being able to share that with the college so that we really have an understanding of the work that you've done over your time, and really again being able to get a sense of, are students prepared for the rigor of the education, but also thinking about submitting those optional pieces, because it helps add to the application where with the academic work there may be some areas where we don't have a school report to really understand how your curriculum falls, with other, students within your school. So the other pieces of the application that can help, stand out a little bit more and help enhance the education. So whether that's submitting test scores, if students are taking college level courses, and from a community college or another institution, submitting those transcripts. So a way for us to again really get a sense of the education and hopefully for you really round out the educational experience.
Well, we appreciate that. And there's also an additional section in the Common Application, Jennifer, which many students use in case of, heaven forbid, a tragedy. Can you share an example of a student who perhaps used that section in a very unique way to really help elevate their overall application?
That's a great question, because a lot of students do utilize that information, and it can be really helpful for us, especially when the whatever the student has experienced has had an effect on their grades, or sometimes it doesn't have an effect. But understanding the things that students are going through while they're trying to maintain, their academic work, and all of that. So I think that if students are able to share those kinds of experiences that can sometimes make the high school experience a little more difficult than normal, we utilize that to really help put in context the kind of experience that a student is having, as it relates to their extracurricular involvements, as it relates to their academic experience. So that information is helpful for sure.
Well, we appreciate that. And what academic, social, and even emotional support systems are in place to help all of your students adjust and, of course, thrive once they're on your campus?
Definitely. So, as I mentioned, I believe at the beginning, every student is matched with a faculty mentor when they enter the college as a first year student. And that faculty mentor stays a student's mentor throughout their 4 years at the college. So, this is someone who really gets to know their students well, who help guide their education throughout their 4 years, not just in choosing classes, but also thinking broadly about the educational experience, whether that's encouraging them to do internships, to study abroad, getting involved on campus. So they're really helping students navigate the campus as a whole with that foundation of that academic guidance that's there with the students. We also have a learning commons on campus, which assists students with things like tutoring, but they also do tons of workshops, peer mentorship. There's a lot of different opportunities for students to take advantage of resources to ensure that they're successful at the college. We also have a first year dean that helps students with transition to Sarah Lawrence because we are a residential campus and majority of our first year students do live on campus. It's actually a requirement that they live on campus for the first year. So that office is really helping with the outside of the classroom experience, though also supporting the in classroom experience, but living on campus, being on your own for the first time, all of that comes into play. And again, the first year experience, the dean for first year experience, her team actually starts working with students in the summer prior to their arrival at Sarah Lawrence. So you'll have an orientation leader that'll help, guide you as well as a peer. and navigating the space prior to coming to Sarah Lawrence and then entering as a student. And then we also have an Office of Access and Disability Services for students who need those resources again to ensure that they're able to be successful during their time at the college.
Well, we appreciate that. And I know, Jennifer, that you have years of experience. And from your experience with families and even college counselors, what is the one misconception about applying to or even attending Sarah Lawrence that you wish more people really understood?
I think one of the misconceptions is that there's no structure. I think when people hear that, they're not required to declare a major and they're just taking classes and that it doesn't sound like there's a pathway. And there truly is a pathway. But everybody's pathway is going to be different. And again, that's where that faculty mentor comes in to ensuring that students are taking the classes that really fit their academic program, but also encouraging them to explore outside of those interests and to supplement those interests through different academic areas. So we do give grades. Students receive a transcript, a traditional transcript, because that's one of the ways that people are like, oh, I hear Sarah Lawrence doesn't do grades, but yes, they do receive grades. They receive a traditional transcript because we do see a lot of our students going on to graduate school and professional programs after leaving Sarah Lawrence. So they're very much prepared for life after Sarah Lawrence, given their experience as an undergraduate.
Well, we definitely appreciate the overview. And this has been a phenomenal conversation. And I always like to ask before the last question, Jennifer, is there a question that I didn't ask or even a topic that you feel is important for our listeners to know about Sarah Lawrence or anything else related to the college admissions process?
I think we've pretty much gotten to the heart of the college and who we are and what we offer. So thank you for those questions. It's been
Hmm.
good for me to even think about, okay, how do we talk about the college? Sometimes we get a little rusty, but having these kinds of experiences, I really enjoy being able to share this kind of information with your listeners.
Well, you were terrific and you offered a lot of pieces of information and insights and advice. But I have to ask, as the final question, Jennifer, what are your top three pieces of advice for students and their parents in navigating the college admissions process?
So, my first piece of advice to students, because it is the college admissions process, I should say, is a very unique process. There really isn't anything else in life that you go through that you experience in this way. So, the first thing I tell students is try to enjoy it. It's an opportunity for you to get to know yourself better, to grow as an individual and really start to think about what are not only the next 4 years of my life going to look like, but beyond that. And to be able to dream a little and have a little fun with it. So I definitely encourage students that. The second thing I encourage families to do, and I got this from a colleague of mine years ago, who always tells families to choose one day a week to talk about the college process because it can become overwhelming. And when you're being constantly asked about it and you're always talking about it, sometimes it becomes too much. So if you're sitting around the dining table or in front of the TV, wherever, in the car on the way to school, find that one time a week that you're going to talk about the process and set that time aside and be intentional about it. The third piece of advice that I give is for students when they're going through the process of um, writing their Common App essay or writing their personal statement. Students are often asking, well, what's the best topic to write about that's really going to get, the admissions team's interest, what's going to make me stand out? And I tell students it's really not about the topic but it's about you being in the essay and us really getting to know you. And one of the ways that I have found students find it's helpful is to have someone that doesn't know you very well read your essay. So your parents are going to read it and think one way, your friends are going to read it and think another, your teachers, and so on and so forth. But let's say there's somebody in your school, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's someone else in your school community or a neighbor that doesn't know you very well, but you're familiar with them, and you have them read your essay and have them give you feedback. Because when the admissions committees are reading your applications, we likely have not met you. And so having someone with that kind of blind, viewpoint read the essay, it can help ensure that you are telling the story that you want the admissions committees to really know about you and your interest in those institutions. So hopefully that helps.
Oh, that definitely helps. And it's a good point for students to remember when you're applying to people that are going to review your applications that, frankly, are strangers. And so you have to keep that in mind to make sure that in your personal statement, your personality is really coming through. Don't write about other people. Many people write about grandma or grandpa. You have to be writing about yourself, students. Remember, it's more than likely that the admissions people reviewing your applications don't know you intimately. So keep that in mind. Jennifer, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I really can't thank you enough. I'm so happy that you came on today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Well, so did we, and the honor was all mine. Thank you. And to everyone out there, good luck with the college search. Take care all, and best wishes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the CAP, the College Admissions Process Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please don't forget to tell a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. I am your host, John Durante, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the CAP. Thank you for listening to the College Admissions Process Podcast presented by Prep Expert. Prep Expert offers live online SAT and ACT courses with the best score guarantees, instructors, and curriculum. Go to prepexpert.com to guarantee your child's success.